Hello, fellow Americans. My name is Mr. Steffler, and I'm coming to you from room 111 at Clintondale Middle School to talk about this week's test that is about Westward Expansion. So let's just talk about where you would find the information and what you got to do to get a good grade on this. First of all, we're talking about pages 100 to 147 in the book. That's a huge span of pages. We've been working on this since January 4th. It's now February 27th. It's been 2 months of us working on this. So we're going to take, this is basically an exam. So what we're going to do is, I've broken it down into the first part of the test into about 8 categories. Okay, and the categories are, on page 1, War with Mexico, the Oregon Trail, the Texas War of Independence, and the development of American culture. And what I'm going to ask you to do is I'm going to ask you to choose 3 of those topics, 3 of them. And the first thing I'm going to ask you to do is I'm going to ask you to make 2 quality facts about each of these topics. Now let's talk about what a quality fact is. First of all, a quality fact has a capital letter at the beginning and a period at the end. It's a complete sentence. Secondly, a quality fact does not have anything false in it. It can't have anything false for it to be a quality fact. The third aspect of a quality fact is that just because it's true doesn't necessarily mean it's quality. A quality fact is a well thought out sentence that has factual information that tells the reader that you understand, you have a deep depth of knowledge about your subject. So, for instance, let's talk about the war with Mexico. Okay, so the war with Mexico. Here's a fact about the war with Mexico. The war with Mexico started in 1846. Okay, that is a fact, but that's not a quality fact. I would say, though, if you put the war with Mexico started in 1846 with a border dispute about Texas, now we're talking about a quality fact. You have a couple of facts in there together that complement each other. Let's talk about the Oregon Trail. Just to say people went to Oregon for rich farmland. That's a fact, but it's not a quality fact. You could say that the trail lasted for 2,000 miles, that it was from Independence, Missouri, out to the Pacific Ocean, that many people died of diseases and Indian attacks on this trail. That many families risked all their savings and all their hopes and dreams all on this dream of going to Oregon. So you're going to need to put together a collection of facts. Okay, so and then the next thing you're going to be asked to do is to connect it to American identity. So you can't just say in the Texas War of Independence, the connection to identity is they were brave. You need to explain that the men defended the Alamo until the death, and that taught Americans in the future to be brave. You have to explain that. You can't just go and put like the shortest sentence possible and expect a quality grade on an answer that's not quality. You could say James Fenimore Cooper wrote books. True, but it's not a quality fact. You say James Fenimore Cooper wrote books that glorified Westward Expansion, and that helped personify the American identity. Or you could say that James Fenimore Cooper's characters glorified Western life. Now that's a quality fact. Or you can add a name. You could say James Fenimore Cooper's character Natty Bumppo in the book The Pioneers exemplified what it was like to be a real American on the frontier. And this made other people want to be real Americans on the frontier. So I'm going to go to the next page. And on the next page, our topics are, now you only have to choose 3 of these topics. The Mountain Men, the Santa Fe Merchants, the Mormons, and the 49ers. Like, it's not enough to say the Mormons went to Utah. What you need to say is the Mormons went to Utah so they could practice their religion in peace. Or it's not enough to just to say Joseph Smith was killed. I think you need to explain that Joseph Smith the leader of the Mormons was killed by a mob. Okay, and then, so you need to have 2 quality fact sentences for each topic that you've chosen. And then you need to have connections to America. For example, like the 49ers. Connections to America. I mean, so many 49ers came in 1849 that California applied for statehood in 1850. Right there, that's establishing that California becomes a state because of the California Gold Rush. And because California becomes a state, you know, we have Disneyland out there, we have Hollywood out there, the Golden Gate Bridge, Alcatraz, the most people, some of the best farmland. I mean, there's all kinds of connections to American identity that just come from California alone. You know, it's like it's not enough to say the mountain men hunted or the mountain men hunted fur. You need to say they hunted beaver fur so people could make beaver fur hats. That's a quality fact. That's a solid quality fact that I can read and say, yes, this person knows exactly what they're talking about as it comes to the mountain men. So, I mean, like the Santa Fe merchants, you know, they went to Santa Fe to sell goods and they braved deserts and Indian attacks. That's a quality fact. You know, just to say that the Santa Fe merchants sold stuff, that's true, but it's not quality. It's just a fact. So I'm going to be looking for 2 quality facts per topic. There's going to be 3 topics per page. There's 2 pages. So when it comes down to it, you're looking at 12 quality facts that you should probably write down tonight and memorize so that when you get on this quiz or test in the morning, that you're able to remember that stuff and get it written down. As far as connections to American identity, I mean, so much goes. It's from the mountain men to, you know, like bravery and trail finding and trailblazing and exploration. You know, you can link that to the space program. You know, the Mormons and their freedom of religion, and you know, they're seemingly. I kind of feel bad for the Mormons a little bit. Definitely a persecuted group here in America, and usually we feel bad for persecuted groups. I don't hear very many people saying that they feel bad for the Mormons. But they were a persecuted group and driven out of America for basically their religion. So I think that that's an important aspect to that. So you're going to have to, I mean, you've been writing all these essays about American identity all the way through. I mean, you should have a pretty good idea on what you're going to do with this stuff. I have a question on the back. Define manifest destiny. So I've defined that in class a bunch of times. Like you're going to need to have a definition for manifest destiny. We're going to have a question about this map here. You did a quiz on that map, and there is a 4-point question on it. So I'll explain how that question works tomorrow. And then there's another map question. You had a quiz on this map, and there are 4 questions about that. So if there's any other questions, please contact me either on Edmodo or before school. I mean, we've worked really hard on this lesson. If you haven't read the chapters and you haven't got your notes done, you need to do that stuff. You need to work at it. Like, this is not something that you just wake up in the morning and have a great social studies grade just because your teacher's a nice guy. Like, you've got to do the work. Okay, so put in that work. Study hard. God bless you, and God bless America. Boom.